Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha Vasudeva Sutang Devam Kangsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum. So we were almost in the last part of the 7th chapter of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita. Only 2 slokas were remaining for our discussion. But as we have already mentioned in the last class, that these last 2 verses, the slokas of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, is actually a prelude to the 8th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So that's why, as an introduction to the 8th chapter, we will study the last 2 verses of the 7th chapter before we continue to our study of the 8th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So now, as a recapitulation, what's the uniqueness of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in comparison to the other Hindu scriptures? Even in the other Hindu scriptures, compared to that, the Bhagavad Gita is a unique scripture. So in one word, what is the uniqueness of Srimad Bhagavad Gita? So you will find it is an integral approach to the reality. So all other philosophies, all other denominations, they will be taking a partial approach. That's why they are all called darshana. Darshana means the view, the angle of vision. The word darshana itself speaks of Catholicity. That no one is claiming that my view is the absolute view. No one is claiming. What they're saying, very humbly they're saying, the way I look at the reality, this is the reality. That's what darshana means. Darshana means to see to a particular perspective. Just a common example, this building, if you take a photo from the east, if you take its photograph from the west, from the north, from the south, all the 4 will be different pictures. They won't look alike, but it is the picture of the same building. So from which angle you are seeing, on that depends your perception of the reality. As Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel speaks of 5 blind men. So they wanted to know that what the elephant looks like. So some elephant was brought and kept near them, and they were asked to sense it, to feel it by touch, and let them have their own explanation of what this elephant looks like. So one blind man went and got hold of the trunk, and according to him the elephant was like a very stout rope or something, very, very strong rope. Someone got hold of his feet, and according to him this elephant is just like a pillar. Someone touched the belly, and he felt it's like a cauldron. Someone touched the ears, and they said the elephant is like a hand fan, the willow. So just see that as they're blind, they cannot see. So with their limited perception of touch, the same elephant they are touching and coming to different conceptions, different idea of the reality. So that's what darshana means. The word darshana speaks of that humility, that they are not claiming that mine is the only truth, absolute truth. The way I look at the reality, according to that, this is the reality. But what Bhagavad Gita did, it took a very integral approach. In its time, it tried to synthesize all the darshanas, all the various viewpoints, to give a very integral approach to the reality. And this trying to know the reality in the Western philosophy is known as metaphysics. You have heard the word metaphysics. What metaphysics is, even if you go to for a Google search, the study of the nature of reality. And throughout the world, in metaphysics, when they are trying to study the nature of reality, they take into account three realities, the three aspects of the reality. What are they? That we all feel that we are all individuals. It's a very common experience that I am different from you, I am an individual, you are an individual. There are innumerable individuals. So these individuals in Sanskrit is termed as jiva. It's a jiva, that we are all jivas, individual souls. That's one aspect of the reality. Another is this jagat, the world which we are seeing. This is a reality for us. And even a small child, they always will ask. Parents get amused that when they grow, the one question invariably comes to every child: from where I came. You will find all the parents can relate to this. The child, when he's growing, this question will come: where I came. So this question that everything has a cause. Nothing is there from eternity through eternity. There is a cause. Some cause has produced some effect. So this is the jiva, this I am here, the world is here, from where it came. So from this, the concept of God, Ishvara. So throughout the world, when they're trying to decipher the nature of reality, these are the three things they study: jiva, jagat, Ishvara. And now, the various views from where it comes, that how you try to decipher the nature of reality as per these three aspects are concerned: jagat, jiva, jagat, Ishvara. The individual beings, the external world, and the cause behind it, from where this creation has happened, the absolute cause, that has been termed as Ishvara. Now we will find that Advaita Vedanta, what it says, when it tries to decipher the nature of this three reality, they will say Jagat, Jiva and Jagat is unreal. It is not there at all. It is an apparent. Only Ishvara, God is there. He is appearing as the individual beings and as the world. In ultimate sense, Jiva and Jagat does not exist. Only Ishvara, which in Advaita Vedanta is termed as the Brahman, that's the only reality. Now this creates a big dilemma in our day-to-day life. It gives us a philosophy which is life denying. I deny the life. This Jiva is not true, Jagat is not true. Somehow I have to realize my oneness with the absolute reality. And I have nothing to do with this world. It is as if like running away from life. Now when we start studying the Bhagavad Gita, if you remember, that's what Arjuna was trying to do. That I don't want kingdom. I am not going to fight with my relatives. I cannot see this devastation in the name of war. I retreat. Apparently it appears to be a wonderful idea of a recluse. Arjuna should have been pleased with, Krishna should have been pleased with Arjuna. That instead we find the Bhagavad Gita starts with that idea that you are behaving like a faint-hearted person. Klaivyang mas magamah partha. You have to face this battlefield, the challenge of life. Now we find the so-called philosophy, whether it is Advaita Vedanta or Sankhya or Yoga, they are all as such life denying. That Purusha, Prakriti in Sankhya, in Yoga. That Purusha is the individual soul and here Prakriti is the nature. My identity is with the Purusha. Somehow I got entangled with the nature. I have to separate myself. I have nothing to do with nature. So Bhagavad Gita here in this point, in this junction, brings a new approach to life. He says, yes, what you say I understand. that the absolute reality is appearing as the jiva and as the world. I'm not denying it. But for some reason or other, it's a fact that its absolute reality in one aspect is appearing as this. They may not be true as the world, as the individual being. They may not be true as the world. But as Ishvara, being projected as Jiva Jagat, they're true. How this projection happened, I don't know. Just the same way we find that one question many ask. This question now I found in internet, and I find many cannot give any answer. The so-called, I found it very interesting. One person is going to the various spiritual teachers asking this question, and he is claiming no one could answer this question. What's the question? That you say in Buddhism, in Hinduism, you believe in karmavada. That my actions results in the succession of births. That my actions resulting in some desires, the sanskars is created, and from that I take another birth. So the question is that I understand that this birth will be resulting in some other birth. The question is the first birth, when it happened. There was no question. The self was the pure self, from where the desire came. Once you take the desire is there, I understand that yes, my desire results in the next birth. Kama karma results, but from where that desire came. So here we will find the scriptures in the special say that you cannot ask that question. Why? So when you are in a dream, when you are already dreaming, can you ask the question when the dream started, how the dream started? You are totally identified with it. Only when the dream breaks, I know, oh, I was in a dream. So how can you ask the question within a dream that how the dream started? You cannot ask. When you are in ignorance, that question itself, that's why we find that if you read the very first lecture of Swami Vivekananda, he actually, in the Chicago, the first lecture, the 7-minute lecture, that all knows. Most of us hear of that. That was an extempore speech with which he became famous overnight. But that was not the only lecture in the Parliament of Religion. There was a series of lectures, and few days after the first lecture, he was actually asked to read a paper on Hinduism. So if you get chance, please go through that paper on Hinduism of Swami Vivekananda, one lecture, a wonderful lecture, about which Nivedita, Sister Nivedita, the disciple of Swami Vivekananda, is commented in a wonderful way. What he has commented? That when Swami Vivekananda stood to represent Hinduism, he was a representative of Hinduism, and when his lecture was over, the Hinduism was created. So it's a wonderful statement. Means, what's the idea? That the ideas are so much spread. This Hindu religion is so vast, with so many subtleties of ideas we find. Sometimes we find it's in an entire lifetime also, most probably we cannot comprehend as such the entire this idea behind this philosophy. It's so many branches, so many denominations, so many views of looking at the truth. It's a vast study. So to create a comprehension, just the way Bhagavad Gita is creating a comprehension of it. So Swamiji also did the same thing. That he has comprehended and gave a very new mold to that religion. The ideas are eternal, but that mold was given to that religion so that it can be followed in the contemporary world, in the present world. So we are not going to that. In that lecture, why we are speaking of that lecture. In that lecture, that Swami Vivekananda is himself asking the same question. That we know that the absolute reality is perfect. Then how the perfect became imperfect? That's the big question. And we find all the philosophies, that's the word of Swami Vivekananda is saying, is struggling to find an answer to that. Some will try to find out some poetic answer, but it doesn't appeal to our reason. And then he says Vedanta gives a very bold answer. And what's the answer? All were eager to listen to that answer. And Swamiji, after just giving a pause in that lecture, that Vedanta gives a bold answer, his lectures were very dramatic. And then he paused for some time, and then he just, that everyone was waiting. They were curious to know what that answer is. And then he told the answer is, we don't know. That's the answer. So that's the ignorance. What's the idea? In spiritual life, through your spiritual practices, you can go to a realization. Oh, I was dreaming. This succession of life was actually a dream. I alone exist as that non-dual conscious principle. And I was dreaming all this. This dream was going on. But I am actually that. But only when I go to that realization, then I know. But now the question comes, how I came to this state? I understand that I am actually the perfect. Somehow I was in a delusion. I was thinking that I am an individual. This world is there, is outside there, and I am relating to it through desires. I understand. And when the dream breaks, I know I am perfect. I am eternal. There is no want in me, no desires in me. I am always fulfilled. I realize that. Now the big question comes, how I went into that state? I have no answer. I have no answer. I realize that from that state, this state came, because I'm from this imperfect, I'm going to the perfect. So that proves that this is my state, real state. Somehow I was in that state. Now the question comes, how that perfect became imperfect? Vedanta says, I don't know. And that example they give, that's just like when you are dreaming. When the dream breaks, you know all those nightmares I was having were dream. But how it started, can you ever answer? You can never answer. You can only say that this is the real me, everything was dream. And that's what Vedanta is doing, Advaita Vedanta. But in Gita, what they are saying, that when you are dreaming, who is dreaming? It is you who are dreaming. You cannot simply deny the dream and say it is unreal. As long as I am in the dream, now there are, those who have nightmares, for them, there's a nice treatment. What's the treatment? That every day you have same type of nightmare. They will say that when you are going to sleep, when you are going before the sleep, don't try to fight with your nightmare. First, you yourself consciously visualize that the thing which every day that you go, you sweat, you get scared, wake up, and then find out it was a nightmare. So you have a particular pattern of your dream. Consciously visualize that pattern. How it will help? Now when you are really dreaming, as you are consciously practicing this visualization when you are awake, when you are dreaming within the dream, after a few days, it's not that the dream is going to stop abruptly, but within the dreaming you will realize, I am dreaming. It is happening still in the dream. I will give you another example. It happens when the child, as is growing, as a small infant, it will be waiting the bed every day. And the mother or the father goes on instructing, no, you have to wake up. And if you really question a small child, you will find a very interesting thing. That when they are being instructed that you have to wake up, go to the toilet, and then you cannot just wait the wait, you have to go to the toilet. Initially what happens, very interesting. It is a very interesting thing. The child in the dream sees he has got up, he has gone to the toilet, but actually he has wet the wet. It takes time to really understand, I am dreaming. And then he gets the habit of waking up. Enter our spiritual practice is that. I am dreaming. It is all a dream, to stand behind and acknowledge the dream, not denying that. If you would have fought with the dream, you would have never got rid of it. You are consciously taught that this is the dream. Even a small child learns that way. That this is the dream, I know. Gradually you learn, when you are dreaming, within the dream, you can stand apart and say it is a dream, and then the dream falls off. This conscious way to go behind the dream is first to accept the dream. If you simply say it is a dream, so that's what Bhagavad Gita has done. That yes, it is the Lord who is dreaming this entire universe. But if he is dreaming, within the dream, this is true as in what way? Not the dream is not true, but the one who is dreaming is true. The dreamer is projecting this dream. Let me accept is as a projection of the divine. And that way, the dreamer can say it is I who was projected in the dream as myself. Even in the dream, you dream yourself. And other characters, isn't it? In the dream, I see myself also. That I have a dream body. So within the Lord is dreaming himself, having his dream body, as this world. What we do in the microcosmic level individually, that's what the Lord is doing. If that is his doing, accept this. And in each and every step of our life, instead of denying, accept the wind. How to accept? That everything is the Lord and Lord alone appearing as this. And then you don't have to deny the life. You can go through the life with a sense of detachment, and that will give you a more wisdom in the life to deal with the day-to-day problems. You will find most of our problems in a life is what we get so identified with the problem that we cannot stand apart from it and to look at it without any bias and have a very clear picture of it. With all our degrees, with all our academic qualifications, at last we will find in our day-to-day life, we fail miserably because of lack of that common sense. That if I would have just had the capacity to stand aside of the turmoil which is going on and think wisely, I would have taken a wonderful step. In our life, no one wants unhappiness. They always want to go out of problem. But what happened? My intention is correct. But as my mind is deluded, the steps I take, that what it happens? It results in more suffering. It's just like being fried on the cauldron. I'm being fried in the cauldron and I jump and fall in the oven. You find in life constantly it is happening. Why? Because constantly there is a thing that as we get so identified with it, we cannot separate ourselves from it. That Sri Ramakrishna gives that wonderful example that two are playing chess, two amateurs are playing chess. The third one is observing, a third person is observing. And you will find that one who is observing, he always says the correct move. Those who are playing, they're constantly faltering in their steps. And you may have the idea the one who is observing most probably is a good player. But no. Now, the roles change. The one who was observing, he becomes one of the players. And one of the players becomes the observer. And here you will find a wonderful thing. The one who was an observer and was saying the correct move, the moment he starts playing, he will be faltering. He will be making wrong moves. And you may be puzzled. How come? That when he was observing, he was so, his judgments were so correct. And now as a player, he has started fumbling with the steps. The reason is simple. That when you are playing, more than half of the mind is engaged with expectation. I have to win. With the fear, I may lose. These expectations, fear, has clouded your mind and you cannot take the decision. You are just faltering in the step. The one who is just an onlooker, he has nothing to do with the winning and losing. His total mind is focused on that chess board. And he can see the steps correctly, as the biases are not there. So in life, you need not have to run away from life. Accept the life. Be in it. But know it is the Lord who has become everything. It's just a virtual reality. I am in it, enjoying it just the way why we just paid this money to and just for watching a horror movie or a tragedy. We won't ever expect those things to happen in our life. But why I enjoy it when I'm watching the movie. Why? Because I know it's just virtual. It's not real, it's virtual. So in spiritual life, when I in the dream know I am dreaming, everything becomes virtual. And then your approach to the life becomes totally different. So that's what in Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna is trying to mold Arjuna in this way of thinking. That don't run away. Be in the battlefield. Everything has a reason. It is the Lord who is actually finding expression as this world. All actions, interactions, everything is going on as His plan, as His way. Be just an instrument in it. Nimitta matra bhava bhavsavya sachin. That's what Bhagavan will be saying to Arjuna in the later chapter. Nimitta matra. You're just an instrument. Everything. Nihatam eva purma eva. That in this battlefield, after the Vishwarup Darshana, in the 11th chapter, we will come to that later, that where Bhagavan will show Arjuna that it is he who is devouring the entire creation. He is the time. All the opponents, he is devouring them, crushing them between his teeth. That horrific vision Arjuna has. And after that, Bhagavan says him, I have killed them beforehand. Know it for certain. You just become an instrument, just a divine worker. The worker who knows the divine is working through me. In all our steps, in our life, it is the divine who is working through us. When the mother loves the child, out of ignorance, she thinks it is I who love the child. But if I really think without any bias, does really the mother love the child? She is bound to. She has been built in such a way. The nature has built him in such a way that when the child is there, love just flows out from his heart. She doesn't have to will it, that I will love the child. It just comes. And she just responds to that impulse of love, which spontaneously comes from his heart. As if someone is there who, to create his own creation, has made this mother an instrument through whom he is working. We can just see it in that way. And then what happens? The mother will feel whatever has to be done through me has been done. Now I have no expectation. The child, as per his samskaras, has become this or that, whatever it is. I am fulfilled that I have been a perfect instrument of the divine. Through me the divine has worked. I have never obscured that. I have done to my best. So I was just a medium of God's love, but at the same time I am not the creator. So that expectation that all this I have done, for this he should become that or he should become that, that doesn't affect me. So we'll find all our sufferings come that way. We get so identified. The ego comes into picture. I have done. And so I expect such and such thing. In our life, everywhere, in all the relations you will find, that's the problem. That if I knew that the love is actually the yajna, but when the God's creation comes into existence, how it comes we don't know. But there are some rules which works, the eternal laws. In Buddhism, they don't believe in God, but they believe in eternal laws. The entire creation is bound by some laws, just the physical laws of gravitation. Similarly, there are some. As a sentient being, there are certain laws. What is the law? That in Bhagavad Gita has been spoken of as yajna. That give and take. In yajna, what we do? In any fire sacrifice in a limited sense, I offer oblations in the fire, thinking that the fire takes my oblations, because fire always moves upwards and gets enflamed, takes my oblations, they're high up to the celestial beings, to the gods. And in return, gods give us boon in bounty, in the form of rain, in the form of, your crops. All these things I get in bounty, because I know that suddenly there may be a dry season. Suddenly there may be a flood. So these celestial gods are angry with me. I have to appease them. So you will find, even in India now also, even when there is some drought, they will do yajnas, fire sacrifice. But it is a very limited way of understanding. The real idea is, in this life, everything is interrelated. I am not just a separate, segregated entity. Constantly I have to interact with the world, and this interconnection is the law of the universe. That's why in the 3rd chapter we read Saha Yajna Praja Srishtu. When God created this creation, He created it along with Yajna. So this Yajna is the programming of God within us, which makes us which impels us to do all the acts which speaks of integration. Even in biology, neither they speak of synergy, that actually it was not competition. It was a teamwork which has enabled all the living creatures to evolve. They term it as symbiosis, synergy, where it all speaks of like coalescing together. So what we are saying is that these are the basic laws of life which are working through you. Never feel you are doing. It is some other higher force which is working through you. Then the question of expectation doesn't come. Your works become nishkama. You do what you do to your best of your ability. You don't forsake your responsibility. But at the same time, as the expectation is not there, the suffering factor is no more there. You can live in this world as a jivan mukta, free while living. That's the assertion in Vedanta, in Bhagavad Gita. Everywhere we find what? That it to enjoy the freedom, the liberation. You need not have to die. It's not a post-mortem state of existence. Here in this life, now, you can experience it. If you can change your paradigm, the way you look at the reality, if you change that, immediately all your suffering vanishes. As our Sunishthananda in the Gita lecture, he uses the word, it's just by changing your paradigm, gives you that immediate cash payment. There's a cash down payment. Immediately you get it. We never think it that happiness is so easily available. It is just a question of changing the paradigm. The moment you can do that, the total way of looking at the life changes, and we find that I am free from all the burdens which I was unnecessarily bearing with me. So now, that's why in Bhagavad Gita we will find they are saying nothing is unreal. As long as you are dreaming, it is your dream, God's dream. So as the dream it is unreal, but it is the one who is the dreamer is real. So the Swami Turiyananda, he was direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, he was a staunch Advaitin. Throughout his life, he used to read scriptures and he used to do that vichara. Constantly he would do the discrimination. Brahma Satya, Jagat Mithya. The world is false, unreal, only Brahman, the absolute reality, that is the truth. In his deathbed, when he was about to die, after all, they are all man of realization. Suddenly he started saying, Brahma Satya, Jagat Satya. Satya Satye Pratishtita. Wonderful revelation. The one throughout his life was doing the discrimination, Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. In his deathbed, in the last moment of his life, he is not in a state of swoon. He is fully alert with that ultimate realization, which Sri Ramakrishna speaks of as a state of Vijnani. That you come down, when you are going to that realization, you deny. He is saying it's just like going up the stairs. When you are going up the stairs, you have to deny one by one the stairs. First stair I deny, I go to the second stair. Second stair I deny, I go to the third stair. That's what we are doing. We are discarding. And when I reach the roof, then I realize, oh, the roof is made of the same material as the steps. When I'm coming down, I realize. So there's no question. At the beginning you are negating. But when you go to the realization, go to the terrace, then you realize, oh, this is the thing with which it is made. In essence, it is a God who has become everything. And Bhagavad Gita, this is the paradigm. That Jagat, Jiva, Ishvara, all are true as a composite whole. And this they express with three paradigms. Why with this introduction we are giving here? Because the 7th chapter which we studied just now is the first paradigm. In the 8th chapter we find the second paradigm. And then again in the 15th chapter, the third paradigm we will find, which speaks of the inclusivity of the entire creation as a composite whole of the divine. The divine is not something separate from it. For these three paradigms Bhagavad Gita has resorted to. The 7th chapter we found the first paradigm, just which we studied. Now in short, as a nutshell, we will try to realize what was the paradigm in the 7th chapter. Very wonderful. That in Samkhya philosophy, in yoga philosophy, they say there are two ultimate realities: Purusha, the conscious principle, and Prakriti, the world. Purusha, Prakriti. Somehow the Purusha has got identified with the Prakriti. Entire spiritual endeavor is to disentangle the Purusha from the Prakriti, so that at last you realize that you alone exist by your own right without the need of a crutch called Prakriti. That's why that state is called Kaivalya, the ultimate state. That Kaivalya in Sanskrit, Kevala means only. That you alone exist. Kevala. From that word Kevala, Kaivalya came. That in the state of liberation, you realize you alone exist without the need for any crutch, by your own right, through eternity. At present, I know if I don't take food, I die. If I don't have wealth, I die. That's the state. When you reach, you find, oh, this is actually because of ignorance. I'm identifying myself with a body-mind complex, and all these ideas come. But the real me is eternal. There is no death, and there is no need for its sustenance. It is always fulfilled. Just as I know at present that unless I that nourish myself, I cannot sustain myself. That's the state I find I am ever fulfilled. There is no want, there is no need. I am eternal. There is no transformation. So the Purusha is that, the Prakriti is that. So in the 7th chapter, if you remember when we started, what we started with, Bhagavan is speaking of, Krishna is speaking of, that I have there are two nature of mine. One is the higher Para Prakriti and other is the Apara Prakriti. But they are both of mine. It's not that I am just the Para Prakriti, the conscious principle. Even the Apara Prakriti is me. If you remember that we started with that, in which it was mentioned that what? The 5 gross elements, Panchabhuta, they are made of the 5 subtle elements, the Shukshma Bhuta, the 5 gross elements, the 5 subtle elements, Mana, Buddhi, Ahankara. So these all constitutes the physical universe. So this is the Apara Prakriti, and each and every being as an individual being, the Jiva, the individual soul, that's my Para Prakriti. And I make a composite whole of the entire creation just like a garland. If you take the entire creation, it is not something all segregated. It's actually a garland where I myself, like a golden thread. In a garland you will find there's a thread connecting all the beads. There is a golden thread inside. So in the 7th chapter, the 7th verse, that's what Bhagavan asserted, that I am the golden thread which is connecting each and every entity in this universe to make it a composite whole. If you remember, the verse was Matta Paratarang Nanyat Kinchid Asti Dhananjaya. There is nothing apart from me. Matta Paratarang Nanyat, nothing apart from me. Mai, and then he gives that example, Mai Sarvamidang Protang Sutre Manigana Iva. Just like the thread by which all the pearls are connected in a thread, I am that golden thread which is connecting this entire universe, permeating through it. So that's how in the 7th chapter, the first paradigm we find, which speaks of the inclusivity of the entire creation as a composite whole, which is nothing but the divine and divine alone. So nothing is denied as unreal. And this thing will be more elaborated in more specific manner by speaking of 6 aspects of this entire reality. And with that, the 8th chapter will start. In that, again, the same thing. God will be saying that the absolute reality has 6 aspects, and they are not something separate from it. It is me who has been projected as these 6 aspects. So these 6 aspects has been spoken of in the 29th and in the 30th verse of the 7th chapter. But as he speaks just in these 2 verses, they appear to be just some terms. And naturally, Arjuna, as a keen student, fails to understand the meaning of the words. And the 8th chapter starts as a request, as a question from Arjuna to Bhagavan to elaborate those terms. So these 6 aspects of the reality are all projected from me and me alone. It is I who am the Adhisthana, the one who is the foundation of all these 6 aspects of reality. So what are those 6 aspects of reality which has been spoken of in the 28th and 29th and the 30th verse of the 7th chapter, as we told, which is the prelude of the 8th chapter. So what are they? So before entering into the 29th and the 30th verse, first let us discuss the 6 aspects. Then it will be easy to understand those 2 verses. So in Bhagavad Gita, you'll find as you're studying, most of the verses appears, oh, it's so easy, I understand. But there are few verses which really creates confusion and which we have to take some time to elaborate it. Then you find the connection. If you cannot find the connection between all the slokas, to individually to study the Bhagavad Gita and suddenly coming to some of the verses which you find is quite enlightening, and then what we do, we will find that everywhere that's what we do. As we cannot connect the entire Bhagavad Gita, suddenly we will take class. Oh, today we will study only these verses which highlights the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Some will say the 2nd chapter highlights the essence of Bhagavad Gita. It speaks somehow he couldn't connect the entire Bhagavad Gita. When you are writing a book, an author is writing a book. Why are these various chapters? Is it just all some just chapters which has no connection? No. They're all connected to come to certain conclusion. To bring out some idea, they have so many chapters. So it's same with Bhagavad Gita. If Bhagavan has to say something and he speaks only in one of the chapters, then why he has to go through all these teachings? So there should be a connection. And that's why unless I find out the connection, the study will be futile. So sometimes that's why to find the connections in some of the slokas, we do have to take time. This 29th and the 30th verse, these 6 aspects. The first aspect we understood in the 7th chapter, that Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti is the upper, the so-called Prakriti, Bhagavan is terming it as Apara Prakriti, the lower nature. Purusha is the Para Prakriti, the higher nature. And Lord is saying, they both are my aspects, and I as the essence is connecting all of them, just as the way a golden thread connects all the pearls in a garland. Entire creation is like garland, and that's me. In the 8th chapter, he's speaking of these 6 aspects of reality. First is Brahman, as has been spoken of in the Advaita Vedanta. The word Brahman comes from Brih Dhatu, that which is Brihat. At present, I have the idea that I am. When I speak of I am, I think it is centered here. Within my body-mind complex, it has a locality. But scripture says that the real, absolute reality is that, if you just think that what is absolute reality? It's the awareness. At present, I have the awareness of my existence, of my amness. I have the awareness. But that is located here in this body-mind complex. Now imagine you still have the awareness of your individuality, of your existence, but it has no locality. You cannot bind it in space-time causation. And that's what the scripture is asserting, that it's not something inert. The two matter has conglomerated and suddenly consciousness has evolved. No. Consciousness as a non-local entity, that awareness, Chit Swarupa, its awareness of its existence is there. It is not inert. But that awareness is something which has no boundary. It permeates the entire creation. And that's the idea of the Brahman. That's the first aspect of the reality. The Nirguna Brahman, you'll find they have used the word Paramam. It transcends. It is a source behind the entire creation. This is the Paramam. And another is Aksharam. Aksharam means that which cannot be mutilated, transformed. It is as it is. So that's the first aspect of reality we will find of the 6 has been spoken of. This Aksharam, Paramam, and that's the one who is the Brahman. And then the second is Adhyatmam. This term has been used by Bhagavad Gita. The second aspect of reality is the Adhyatmam. Adhi Atma. That when someone asks, even a small child, you just call his name, just say his name is Ram, Shyam, whatever is there. Where is Ram? Immediately he will point towards his finger towards him, isn't it? Just if a child's name is Ram and you ask, where is Ram? So he will point his finger towards him. That speaks of Adhyatma. Adhi-atma. Atma means something within. So that Brahman is appearing as these individualities. A very simple example in the scriptures we find, in the ocean there are innumerable waves and there is one sun in the sky, and I find the reflection, innumerable reflection of the sun. In each and every wave there is a reflection. The one sun as reflection is appearing as many. So this absolute is appearing as Jiva. We are like the waves in which the absolute, these waves of body-mind complex, in which the absolute is being reflected as an individuality. That has been spoken of as Adhyatma. So you will find that this Jiva is not separate from the Ishvara, just the way the reflection of the sun is not different from the sun. It's the same sun which is being reflected as this reflection of sun, one appearing as many. So these all individuals are my aspect, Adhyatma. But as per the shape of the wave, the sun's reflection may get a bit distorted. It may appear spherical or it may appear elliptical, isn't it? You will find that the reflection, or it may appear to be moving. So according to the shape, peculiarity of each wave, the reflection, though it is the same sun, it appears not only many, it also appears varied. So that's why these terms are very important. The Adhyatma has been spoken of as Swabhava. The Swabhava we all know, that you have your Swabhava. You have your own distinct characteristics. I have my own Swabhava. I have my own distinct characteristics. So that Adhyatma appears as the individual, appears as Swabhava in each and every being. So these terms are so important. We all constantly are familiar, being in India, being brought up in this culture, we are familiar with the terms, but sometimes we don't know the etymological meaning of the terms. That why Adhyatma has been termed as Swabhava? Because the moment it gets reflected, now as per the peculiarity of the psychophysical existence, as per my mental makeup, as per my upbringing, the absolute reality will take a particular unique characteristic which distinguishes me from any other creation in the world. So that's what the idea of Swabhava. So Brahma is the first aspect, Adhyatma is the second aspect. So Brahman is the unchanging aspect of the reality, absolute. And this Adhyatma is the individual aspect of the reality, that absolute appearing as the individual. And then Adhidaiva, these are the terms. First we have to understand, otherwise it remains just as a term. That what Bhagavan is saying we won't understand. Adhidaiva, what it speaks of? It speaks of the mind. Antaryami. In each and every being, again, what's going on in my mind I'm constantly observing. It gives us a wrong notion that the mind is the conscious principle. So here we find with the Vedanta philosophy is totally distinguished from the Western philosophy. In Western philosophy we will find the mind has been equated with the self. But in Vedanta they say, nah, even the mind is the thing which we are observing. There is a pure awareness which is observing the external world as well as my own emotions, feelings, isn't it? I observe my own feelings, I observe my own thoughts. When I'm thinking, I know what I'm thinking. There's a pure awareness, just though it is observing the external world, is observing my thoughts, my feelings, my emotions. That pure awareness is the self, but these thoughts, feelings, emotions, these are mind, which appears consciousness because of its association with the pure awareness. But these are also inert, in a sense, they are being observed, they are drishya. They are not the one who is the drashta, the witness. They are all drishya, I see it. So this mind, this antaryami, with all its thoughts, with all its feelings, emotions, within all of us is the this adhidaiva. Adhidaiva is the antaryami. In Vedanta they say there is actually one mind, just like the internet, from which in an internet all the information is there. As per my tendencies, I download and create my own world. If I'm a medical student, I create my own world with what I have downloaded. An engineering student will create his own world, but from the same store of the cloud of information. So in Vedanta they say this Adhidaiva is the Hiranya Garbha, the cosmic mind, where our minds is something which is like a downloaded reality from that. So that Adhidaiva, we are all aware of it. God is saying, actually, I am that. I am the individual. Again, I am finding expression as the Antaryami, as the mind, the way it witnessing everything. It is witnessing everything. Adhidaiva. Adhiyagya. Just now we were speaking. There's interconnectedness. The mother feels love for the child. It is Krishna himself. Bhagavan is saying that I am the yagya in all the beings. It is he who is finding expression as the love, as the compassion, which all speaks of interconnectedness. Previously, there was a book in this 80s or 90s, The Selfish Jinns. The jinn is selfish. And now, as the ideas have evolved, they have started saying the altruistic jinn. The jinns are not selfish. The core of our being somehow, no one has to teach us. In Buddhism, very interesting, there is no idea of God. But in their meditation, there are two components. One is mindfulness and another is metta, this loving kindness. So now many ask the question that how you relate these two. Mindfulness, okay, I'm observing the world, which I am not. I'm observing my body and my feelings. I am not. That creates a sense of detachment. From detachment, how can love come? These two are just opposite characteristics, detachment and love. And you speak of mindfulness followed by metta, loving kindness. Now they give a wonderful example. They say this love, compassion, altruism is the law of the universe. It is a law. They don't believe in God, but they believe in this dharma. Dharma is these laws, eternal laws. It is the noise of our mind which doesn't allow us to realize the dharma. With mindfulness, you clear the mind, love automatically flows. Wonderful explanation. Metta, that love flows if you clear the mind. Otherwise, our meditation would have made like a cabbage. After all, we don't want to become a cabbage. You just have a cabbage in your hand, you just insert a knife in it, it doesn't react. With all our meditation, do we want to become like a cabbage, that no reaction, like an inert matter? No. It speaks of this yagya, that love, kindness, compassion, which helps us to relate to this world with give and take, interconnectedness. So God as the yagya is in himself in our heart. So it is not something, my emotion, it is God who is finding expression as my love, devotion, compassion. That's the idea of yagya. So he is the adhiyagya in each and every being's heart. Adhibhuta, this ever-changing, this external world which I am seeing, kshara bhava, constantly changing. The river is flowing, the landmarks are changing. Everything is a constant state of flux, this physical world, which I think to be something tangible reality. God is saying, I am that too. This tangible reality is consciousness, and consciousness alone appearing as this world of something intangible. Because even in science you will find, sometimes we say, how can consciousness be something tangible? Very, very interesting. The very basic thing you will understand. Even in science, we really try to find out at last the nature of this so-called matter. At last, there also in a big confusion. We can just give a simple example to understand. I see this table as a solid table. Is it really solid? Basic question. Let us know this. Now, if you all know the basic science, that this table is matter, after all, made up of atoms, molecules. Let us take the atoms by which it at last it is its constituent. Now, this atom, if you take, very interesting. With the common sense, you will understand. What is atom? We all studied in primary school education. There is a nucleus and electrons are moving around it. We all studied. Now the question is very interesting. Now what actually is that compactness of that atom? They say actually it is all space. That nucleus in the center I am thinking, and these electrons are moving around it. What's the distance between these two? They say if you enlarge it into the size of a football ground, then just the football itself kept in the center of your football ground is the nucleus. And the electron is like some person running in, just not in the field, in the stadium. The entire ground is empty. This solid matter, from where it comes? If that's the thing with which atom is made, they say it is just the limitation of our senses. To give a very common example, you will understand. So when the fan, you have this thing, the fan with the blades. When the fan is not revolving, I can see the blades. I can see the blades separately. But the moment you on the fan, can you see the blades anymore? It appears as a disc. Why? Because of the limitation of our vision. Our eyes have the retention capacity. What it sees now, even if it's taken away from my vision, for 0.07 second, it still remains in my vision, though it is not there. If anything comes in my vision within that period, these two overlaps. In the when you are seeing a movie, it is actually all discrete photos, move very fast to give you a sensation of it's moving. Actually, nothing is moving there. So it's what a limitation of senses. It cannot immediately segregate. So this, what it makes, it gives us the feeling of this, all this, just the way you see the disc. The solid matter is actually, why my hand is not penetrating through the table, it is actually the interaction of two fields, not something solid, concrete, clashing with each other. Two fields are, these fields of energy are interacting, not allowing one to pass through the other. The microwaves can pass through it, I cannot pass through it. It's the fields which are interacting. So what's the idea? It is because of the limitation of the senses, I see something as a tangible matter. Even in science will say that tangible matter is not there. So when Vedanta says the consciousness and consciousness alone is appearing as the material world, I don't think it's very difficult to understand that explanation. There are many ways. I'm just giving this just a simple example there. So this physical, tangible world, she is saying is, I am the one who is appearing as this. That is adhibhuta. So why this word adhi? These prefixes are very important in Bhagavad Gita. Prefixes change the meaning of the word. Bhutam means world. The moment you say adhibhuta, means I am the adhishthana. I am the one who is the foundation of that. When he's saying adhidaiva, daiva speaks of the mind. The div dhatu, why the deva is mind? The div means to illumine. Devata generally be translated as the celestial beings. All the gods are devatas. Why? The idea is they don't have some gross body like us. Their body is full of light, illumination. That's why they are devata. But again, the devata means our senses, our mind. Because their nature is to illumine. Through the senses, the world is illumined to you. Through your mind, the world is illumined. So these senses and the mind are the devata. So this, when they say daivam, it means your mind, the senses. Senses are the projection of the mind. Through the senses, the mind perceives everything. So ultimately, the devata, div dhatu speaks the mind. The prefix adhi again means I am the adhishthana. It is I who am the one who is the essence of the mind of the entire creation. That's why this adhi prefix has been used for all the terms. Adhi daiva, adhyatma, this adhi atma. When you say that who are you? I am this. Actually it is not you. I am the adhishthana. That's why it is adhyatma, adhi atma, adhi daiva, adhi yagya. That yagya, I understand, is interconnectedness. Again, the prefix adhi means I am the foundation. Adhishthana, adhi yagya, adhi bhuta. The same thing. This physical world you see, I am the one who is the adhishthana, the foundation of that. It is I who am appearing as that. And the last is the karma. Karma here in this in Bhagavad Gita, in this chapter, is indicated as the dynamic aspect of creation. That we all, even science will say that creation was not there. There was a big bang, from this the creation came. There's a process. It's not that this world was there eternally. It took billions of years at last to create this habitable universe, this habitable earth. So there's so much of incessant activities going on through the creation. There's a dynamic aspect, the Shakti. That also is me. From me, everything has been projected. So these 6 are not something apart from me. It is I who am appearing as this. So these 6 aspects in the last 2 verses, Bhagavan is speaking of. I will just read this, and then we will find there is no need for much explanation, because we already have first the explanation and then we are reading the verse, so that when we read the verse, you can easily relate to it. What is saying? Jara, this 29th verse. Jara marana mokshaya mama srita yatantiye te brahma tat vidu kritsnam adhyatmam karma cha akhilam. So the 3 of the 6, the 3 has been spoken of in this verse. That te Brahma, the one who knows the Brahman, tat vidu, the Brahma, tat vidu kritsnam adhyatmam, who knows the adhyatma, the individual self, the absolute reality, and karma, the entire creation which has proceeded from me, the dynamic aspect of it. They who know this, and what else in the 30th verse? Sadhi bhutadhi daivam mam sadhi yagyam adhibhuta adhiyagya sa adhibhuta sa adhidaivya. The one who knows me as the adhibhuta, as the adhiyagya, prayana kale apicha mang te vidur yukta chetasa. So even at the time of death, they never forget me. Their mind is steadfast. So you may say, why all these terms has been used? He could have simply told that those who are devoted to me, even at the time of death, remembers me. But why he has elaborated this much? Because to remember the Lord always in this life, let us go to the very simple dust that in our life I am devoted to God. So what I do, in the morning I wake up, there is an hour at the most for me to meditate, or in the evening. And throughout the day, I am active with the worldly activities. So even as a devotee, how much time I can really spend in my devotion? It's very limited time. Then how can I think of the Lord always? It is impossible. It is impossible. If this world is there, even a sannyasi, he has left his hearth and home, but you will find just to get his bhiksha, he has to travel miles, just for his own sustenance. How much time can he think of just constantly be in his meditation samadhi? No. He has to, as long as he is alive, he has to relate to this world. And now, to think of something at the time of death is possible if that is, I am habituated to that thinking. As a worldly person, even if I think of God now and then, I will find at the time of death, the thought of God won't come. Because my habitual thinking is this world. As Sri Ramakrishna very jokingly used to say, that you may teach a parrot the name of Rama, but if a cat comes and throttles its neck, immediately the wild sound comes out. So for us also the same thing. That's our habitual way of thinking. So now to convert that habitual way of thinking to think of God, I have to constantly think of God. But how much time I can devote for my spiritual practices? Very few. Rest of the time, even if I am a sadhu, I have to relate to this world. Then how can I make the thought of God habitual? It's not that when you are seeking God with your closed eyes. In the words of Swami Vivekananda, don't seek with your closed eyes, but see Him in each and every being, in each and every creation. Then only it is possible to make the thought of God habitual. That is not in my meditation. When I am out of my meditation, relating to the world, I am relating with you, I am relating with a small child as a teacher in the school, I am relating with God. There the worship is to teach Him. This worship is easy. The God doesn't react. He is sitting here. No reaction. Whatever you do, He is happy with that. And you know, in the school, the small child, so many ways that you have to deal with him. In the hospital, you have to deal with the patient. Why the word patient? It is termed because with him you have to practice patience. It's not easy. That's why he's patient. With him you have to practice. Why it is called hospital? Because it is a place not for your, that somehow I have to go and do my duty. There all the gods are waiting as patient who will practice my patience, and it is a place of hospitality. That's why it is hospital. It's a hospital. You have to provide it like a 5-star hotel, the hospitality. So just see these terms, how these interesting terms are there. So then what happens with this attitude? That when in my meditation I was sitting in my shrine and meditating to my God, it's the same God who is there outside in the world. With this idea, I come out from my meditation seat. My meditation is no more secluded only in my asana. When I'm out of my asana, I continue with my meditation. The spirituality becomes a 24/7 affair. In all my activities, because God has become everything, I see Him. And then only the thought of God can become habitual. Otherwise, it could be limited only to your meditation hours in the morning or the puja hours in the morning and the evening. And rest of the day I will be busy with my world, thinking in this world which I have to take care of, my responsibility, that distracts me, I cannot think of God. And that is the habitual thought which will be carrying us, because most of the time I'm spending there. But if I change the orientation, that nothing is secular, everything is spiritual. These all the aspects, in 6 aspects which God is speaking of in the 8th chapter, they're all spiritual. Then only it is possible that I can think of the Lord throughout the day, through all my activities, and then the thought of Lord can become habitual. And then only what is habitual, that comes at the time of death. Then only you can at the time of death think of the Lord. Otherwise you cannot. So prayana kalepi chamang te vidur yukta chetasa. That they think of me even at the time of the death, steadfast in the mind. How is it possible? Because they have not taken me just as Brahman. They have considered me as Sadhi, Adhyatma, Adhi Yagya, Adhi Daiva, Adhi Bhuta, Karma, everything they have considered me. That's why they could relate to me in each and every activity of their life. And that's why the thought of the Lord has become habitual. And now, even at the time of death, nothing can deviate them. They are steadfast in the thought of the Lord. So that's the idea you will find. Wonderfully, the entire life is not, Bhagavad Gita is denying. Everything has been included. Now this explanation, we took the entire class as an introduction of the 8th chapter to explain these terms. This Brahma, this Adhyatma, Adhi Yagya, Adhi Daiva, Adhi Bhuta, Karma. So these, as Krishna told just in 2 verses directly, Arjuna got baffled that what these terms mean. Now the 8th chapter will start by this Arjuna's question, that these are the terms which I have used, saying that these are the things which constitute your reality. So what they actually mean? So with that question they will start, and again Krishna will explain them, and then again he will come to that in the very 4th verse in the 8th chapter. He will come to that idea that only when you take me in this totality, then only you can think of me at the time of the death. And it is very important, at the time of death what you think, that determines your next birth, that determines your destiny. Just a funny example which we give, if you off your TV in a particular channel, next time when you open, where it opens? In that channel, isn't it? So that's what happens with us at the time of death. What you are thinking, that decides your next course, and that's how your destiny is being built. So it's a process not only of practice but of your orientation. So that's the thing. It's a very, very scientific approach which Bhagavan is bringing in our to this humanity. So unless we really understand the Bhagavad Gita in its essence, the way it has, so that it can be connected, all the verses can be connected to give it an organic wholeness, and then we will again be missing the point. So let's study. We will take some time, but let us study it very, between the lines. As Swami said, that between the lines means that there is some meaning between the lines that is hidden there. We have to just understand that, and then only the study will become fruitful. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.